Faith as the foundation, building a life beyond fear. Faith is not just a spiritual idea that belongs in religious spaces. It is the foundation upon which every meaningful transformation in life is built. Without faith, life becomes a series of reactions to fear, doubt, and circumstances. With faith, life becomes a journey where the impossible becomes possible, and where vision is not limited by what the eyes can see, but expanded by what the heart dares to believe. To build a life that truly matters, a life that shakes off mediocrity and embraces destiny, faith must be the cornerstone. Fear will always present itself, whispering lies of limitation and inadequacy. But faith is the power that silences those voices and moves you toward purpose. Fear operates in the realm of sight. It takes the evidence of your current situation and tells you that this is all you'll ever have, this is all you'll ever be, this is as far as you'll ever go. Faith, however, operates in the unseen. It acknowledges the present reality but refuses to let it dictate the future. Faith says, yes, I may be broke today, but I see wealth in my tomorrow. Yes, I may be broken today, but wholeness is my destiny. Yes, I may be overlooked today, but my season of recognition is already unfolding. This shift is critical because people who live by sight are controlled by fear, while people who live by faith are fueled by vision. Building a foundation of faith requires intentionality. Just like a building without a strong foundation will collapse under pressure, a life without faith will crumble when adversity comes. And let's be clear, adversity will come. You will face setbacks, disappointments, betrayals, and challenges you never anticipated. The question is not whether storms will hit your life. The question is whether you have the kind of foundation that can withstand them. Faith is that foundation. Faith gives you the ability to say, I will not be moved, even when the winds of uncertainty try to push you off course. Now, faith is not wishful thinking. It is not sitting around hoping that life will somehow get better. Faith is a conviction that moves you into action. It is the alignment of your beliefs, your words, and your behavior with the truth of what you see for your future. If you believe you were created for greatness, faith demands that you act like it. If you believe abundance belongs to you, faith demands that you align your decisions with that reality. Too many people think they have faith when in reality they only have hope. Hope is important, but hope is passive. Faith is active. Hope says, I wish it could happen, but faith says, I'm walking toward it until it becomes reality. Fear paralyzes, but faith mobilizes. Fear makes you play small, but faith forces you to expand. Fear keeps you tied to the opinions of others, but faith sets you free to pursue your calling without apology. Fear tells you that you don't have enough, you don't know enough, you aren't good enough. Faith reminds you that everything you need is already within you, and what you lack will show up as you keep moving forward. This is why people who live in faith consistently outgrow those who live in fear. They step into opportunities others are too scared to touch. They start businesses others talk themselves out of. They have relationships others are too guarded to pursue. They live a life others only fantasize about. To build a life beyond fear, you must train your faith like a muscle. Faith grows through use. You cannot develop strong faith if you only trust when it's easy. You develop faith when you stand firm in the face of uncertainty. You develop faith when you keep sowing seeds even when you haven't yet seen a harvest. You develop faith when you choose to believe the promise, even when the problem looks bigger. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to expand your faith. And every time you choose faith over fear, you become stronger, more resilient, more unstoppable. One of the greatest barriers to building a foundation of faith is the environment you allow yourself to live in. Faith is fragile in negative soil. If you constantly surround yourself with people who operate in fear, who complain, who doubt, who mock vision, your faith will be choked before it can grow. But if you surround yourself with people who dream big, who act boldly, who speak life instead of death, your faith will flourish. That's why it's not just about what you believe, it's also about who you connect your belief to. Alignment is everything. If your circle is filled with fear-driven people, you will never build a faith-filled life. Choose your environment wisely, because your faith depends on it. Another essential element of faith is your language. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. Every time you open your mouth, you are either planting seeds of faith or seeds of fear. If your language is dominated by, I can't, I'll never, it's too hard, it's impossible, you're feeding your fear and starving your faith. But if your language shifts to, I will, I can, I must, I believe, you're feeding your faith and choking out your fear. The words you speak are a reflection of the beliefs you hold, and if you want to build faith, you must discipline your tongue to agree with the future you desire, not the fear you feel. Faith also requires vision. You cannot build faith if you don't know where you're going. Faith thrives on clarity. When you know your purpose, when you know what you're building, when you have a picture of your destiny, your faith has something to hold on to. Without vision, your faith will collapse under pressure because it has nothing to anchor itself to. With vision, your faith becomes unshakable because even when things look dark, you can see the light ahead. That's why one of the greatest investments you can make in yourself is to develop a clear, compelling vision of the life you want to live. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. That means faith needs something to work with, and that something is vision. Finally, building a foundation of faith requires persistence. Faith is not a one-time act, it is a lifestyle. It is not just what you do on your good days, it is what you do when everything in you wants to quit. Faith is what keeps you building when the blueprint looks impossible. Faith is what keeps you walking when the road feels endless. Faith is what keeps you standing when everything around you tries to knock you down. Fear may visit, but faith makes the final decision. And once faith makes the decision, there is no going back. So if you want to build a life beyond fear, you must lay your foundation on faith. You must refuse to let fear dictate your steps. You must discipline your beliefs, your environment, your language, your vision, and your persistence to align with the reality you're creating. Because faith is not just believing that something can happen, it's knowing it will and living like it already has. When you build on faith, fear loses its power, and you begin to live a life that is unshakable, unstoppable, and undeniable. The power of belief, shaping reality through conviction. Belief is not a casual opinion or a fleeting thought. Belief is a force that constructs or destroys entire destinies. Your life right now, in every area, your finances, your relationships, your health, your opportunities, is the direct reflection of what you have chosen to believe about yourself and about the world around you. What you believe shapes what you attempt shapes what you experience, and what you experience reinforces what you believe. It is a cycle of creation. And if you don't interrupt limiting beliefs with empowering ones, you will stay trapped in the same patterns year after year. Beliefs are invisible architects. They build the framework of your reality. The difference between the person who thrives and the person who struggles is not usually intelligence, resources, or talent. It is belief. One person believes they can, so they move with confidence, take risks, and persist until they win. Another person believes they cannot, so they hesitate, procrastinate, and sabotage themselves before they ever get started. The gap between potential and results is bridged by belief. Without belief, potential lies dormant. With belief, potential explodes into progress. The power of belief works in both directions. It can lift you into heights you never imagined, or it can chain you to mediocrity. If you believe you're unworthy of wealth, you'll subconsciously reject opportunities to prosper. If you believe love is unsafe, you'll unconsciously push away relationships that could heal and fulfill you. If you believe life is unfair and the odds are stacked against you, you'll live in victimhood and never rise to the level of leadership you were designed for. But when you flip the script, when you choose to believe that wealth is possible, love is worth it, and life bends in favor of those who show up with courage, you begin to create entirely new outcomes. Belief shapes behavior. People act in alignment with what they think is true. If you believe you're destined for greatness, your behavior will rise to that expectation. You'll carry yourself differently. You'll speak with authority. You'll invest in yourself. You'll work with discipline. But if you believe you're average, your behavior will sink to that level. You'll tolerate disrespect. You'll settle for less. You'll talk yourself out of opportunities. You'll procrastinate and drift. The tragedy is not that people don't have the ability to achieve greatness. The tragedy is that they don't believe they do. That lack of conviction poisons their choices, and their choices confirm their disbelief. Beliefs are not just personal, they are generational. You inherited many of your beliefs from the environment you grew up in. If you grew up in a family where money was always scarce, you probably believe wealth is unattainable or only for other people. If you grew up hearing words of criticism and comparison, you may believe you're never good enough. These beliefs didn't come from truth, they came from repetition. Beliefs are programmed through constant exposure. That means you don't have to hold on to the ones you inherited. You can rewrite the code. You can interrupt the cycle. You can decide that just because your parents struggled, it doesn't mean you have to. Just because your past was broken, it doesn't mean your future has to be. You can believe something new, and when you do, you unlock a new future. The first step in reshaping belief is awareness. Most people are not even conscious of the beliefs driving their lives. They think their struggles are circumstantial, when in reality they are mental. Pay attention to the language you use, the thoughts you repeat, the way you explain your failures. Every excuse is rooted in belief. If you constantly say, that's just who I am, that's just how life is, that's just how things always go for me, you are revealing a belief that holds you hostage. The moment you recognize it, you gain the power to challenge it. You don't have to accept every belief you inherited. You can test it. You can ask, is this true? Is this belief empowering me or is it enslaving me? Once you identify a limiting belief, the next step is to replace it with an empowering one. You can't just delete a belief, you have to install a new one. If you believe I'm bad with money, you must replace it with I'm learning to master money. If you believe I always fail, you must replace it with I learn from every setback, and success is inevitable. Belief is strengthened by repetition, so you must consistently affirm the new conviction until it takes root. This is why people who practice affirmations, visualization, and meditation experience transformation not because of magic, but because they are reprogramming their subconscious mind to align with new beliefs. Belief is also strengthened by evidence. When you take small actions aligned with your new belief, you create proof. If you believe I can build wealth, you take a small step, like saving or investing, and when you see progress, your belief deepens. If you believe I can be healthy, you start exercising, and when you feel stronger, your belief grows. Every action creates evidence, and that evidence becomes fuel for greater belief. This is why it is critical to take action, even when your belief feels shaky. Waiting until you fully believe is a trap. You build belief by acting in alignment with the person you are becoming, not the person you have been. Beliefs not only shape your behavior, they shape your perception. Two people can face the exact same circumstance and interpret it completely differently based on their beliefs. One sees rejection as proof of inadequacy, the other sees rejection as redirection. One sees failure as final, the other sees failure as feedback. One sees obstacles as signs to quit, the other sees obstacles as opportunities to grow. The situation didn't change, the belief did. That's why shifting your beliefs is the most powerful transformation you can make. It doesn't just change what happens to you, it changes how you interpret it, and therefore how you respond. Belief also attracts. People are drawn to conviction. If you walk into a room hesitant, apologetic, unsure, no one follows you. But if you walk in with belief, with certainty in your voice and vision in your eyes, people gravitate toward you. Opportunities gravitate toward you. Success gravitates toward you. The world doesn't reward talent alone, it rewards belief. People with less skill but greater belief often outpace those with more skill but less conviction. Because the world responds to the energy of certainty, and certainty is born from belief. Ultimately, belief is a choice. You get to decide what you believe about yourself, about your future, about your God-given potential. You can choose to believe the lies of fear, or you can choose to believe the truth of possibility. You can choose to believe your past, or you can choose to believe your vision. You can choose to believe the critics, or you can choose to believe the Creator who designed you with purpose. The choice is yours, and the consequences are permanent. Every time you choose belief over doubt, you rewrite the script of your life. Every time you choose conviction over hesitation, you create momentum. Every time you choose faith-filled belief over fear-based belief, you step closer to the version of yourself that you were always meant to be. Your reality is shaped by your conviction. What you see today is the harvest of what you believed yesterday. What you will live tomorrow will be the harvest of what you believe today. That's why you cannot afford to play small with your beliefs. Don't believe for survival, believe for abundance. Don't believe for mediocrity, believe for greatness. Don't believe for a life that looks like everyone else's. Believe for a life that stands out, inspires others, and honors the gifts you've been given. Belief is the blueprint of destiny. And when you learn to align your conviction with your vision, there is no limit to what your life can become. Endurance through trials, how faith sustains you in hardship. Life has a way of pressing down on you. Storms arrive uninvited, setbacks hit when you least expect them, and pain often comes in waves you feel unprepared to handle. In those moments, it is not talent that sustains you, not charm, not even sheer willpower. It is faith. Faith is the anchor that holds you steady when the winds of adversity try to knock you off course. Faith is the fuel that keeps you moving when your energy is gone. Faith is the reason why some people rise stronger from hardship while others crumble under the weight of the same circumstances. You see, hardship is not an interruption to life. hardship is part of life. Too many people are shocked when they encounter difficulty, as if it means something is wrong with them. The truth is, struggle is universal. What separates the victorious from the defeated is not whether storms come, but how they respond when the storm arrives. Faith transforms hardship from destruction into development. Without faith, trials break you. With faith, trials build you. Without faith, suffering feels meaningless. With faith, suffering becomes a classroom where strength, patience, and resilience are forged. The endurance of faith works like this. Faith gives you a perspective larger than the problem. When you lack faith, your problems consume the whole picture. You feel trapped, hopeless, and suffocated because all you can see is the difficulty. But when you have faith, you lift your eyes above the storm. You recognize that the trial is temporary, but your purpose is eternal. You realize the pain may last for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. You understand that what looks like a setback is often a setup for something greater. That perspective does not eliminate the hardship, but it changes how you experience it. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Faith also sustains by giving meaning to the process. Hardship feels unbearable when you think it has no purpose. But when you believe that even your pain is working for your good, you can endure it with patience and even gratitude. Think about how a seed breaks open underground. If the seed could speak, it might call the breaking process unfair, painful, even deadly. But from that breaking, new life emerges. That is how trials work in your life. They break you open so that what's inside of you can grow. Faith tells you not to curse the soil of struggle, because the soil is what activates your potential. Another way faith sustains you is by giving you strength you didn't know you had. Many people only discover how strong they are when life gives them no choice but to be strong. Without faith, that strength is often buried under fear and despair. But with faith, you tap into a reservoir of resilience you didn't even realize existed. You begin to take steps forward, even when your legs feel heavy. You find words of encouragement, even when your heart feels empty. You refuse to quit, even when quitting seems easier. Faith unlocks supernatural endurance, the kind of endurance that turns survivors into conquerors. Faith also builds patience. Trials have a way of stretching time. When you're in the middle of difficulty, it feels like it will never end. Days feel like weeks, weeks feel like months. Without faith, impatience drives you to make desperate decisions, quitting, compromising, or running away from the very situation designed to grow you. But with faith, you learn to wait well. You learn to trust that timing is just as important as outcome. You begin to recognize that what feels delayed is often development. The waiting is not wasted. It is preparing you for the blessing on the other side. Faith teaches you to endure patiently, not passively, but with expectation that what you're hoping for is worth the wait. Another gift of faith in hardship is peace. Trials often create anxiety, fear, and mental chaos. Your mind races with what-ifs. Your chest feels tight with uncertainty. But when faith takes root, peace enters. You stop obsessing over what you cannot control and start trusting the one who can. You realize worry has never solved a problem but has destroyed countless lives. Faith doesn't eliminate your problems, but it calms your heart in the middle of them. It allows you to rest, to breathe, to keep your composure even when everything around you is shaking. Peace becomes your hidden weapon, frustrating the enemy who expected you to break down but instead sees you standing tall. Let's not miss this. Endurance through trials doesn't mean ignoring pain. Faith does not deny reality. Faith does not pretend everything is fine when it is not. Faith acknowledges the hurt, but it also acknowledges the hope. Faith accepts the loss, but it refuses to lose perspective. Faith feels the pain, but it also anticipates the promise. This is important because too many people think faith is about pretending life doesn't hurt. No, faith is about declaring that even though it hurts, it will not destroy me. Even though I cry, I will not quit. Even though I fall, I will rise again. That is endurance, not the absence of pain, but the refusal to be defined by it. Endurance also transforms your character. Hardship has a way of stripping away superficial things and revealing what you're really made of. It shows you the cracks in your foundation, the weakness in your discipline, the holes in your mindset. Faith allows you to confront those weaknesses without shame and turn them into strength. When you endure hardship faithfully, you emerge with deeper humility, stronger discipline, greater wisdom, and unshakable resolve. People who have never been tested may look strong, but the ones who have been through fire and kept their faith are the ones who cannot be broken. That's the kind of endurance faith produces, not just survival, but transformation. And here's the truth. Endurance through trials is contagious. When others see you walk through difficulty with faith, it inspires them. It gives them hope that if you can stand, they can stand. If you can believe, they can believe. If you can endure, they can endure. Your endurance is not just for you. It is for the countless people watching your example. Faith turns your private struggle into a public testimony. What was once your greatest pain becomes your greatest platform to encourage others who are walking through the same valley. In the end, hardship is not something to be feared, but something to be faced with faith. Every storm has an expiration date, but the strength you gain by enduring it lasts forever. Faith sustains you in ways nothing else can by giving you perspective beyond the problem, purpose in the pain, strength you didn't know you had, patience in the waiting, peace in the chaos, and character that cannot be shaken. You may not be able to choose your trials, but you can choose your response. Choose faith. Because with faith, you will not only endure the hardship, you will emerge from it refined, elevated, and prepared for the next level of your destiny. Unlocking purpose. Faith is the key to destiny. Every person walking this earth has a purpose. You are not here by accident, you are not random, and you are not disposable. Deep inside, you already know this. That's why you feel restless when you're living beneath your potential. That's why no amount of distractions, entertainment, or temporary success can satisfy you when you're not aligned with your true calling. Purpose is not just a nice idea. It's the reason you exist. And here's the truth. Purpose can only be unlocked through faith. Without faith, you'll settle for survival. With faith, you'll step into destiny. Purpose is the compass of life. It gives you direction when the world is noisy and confusing. It gives you clarity when choices overwhelm you. It gives you energy when you feel like giving up. But purpose doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't force its way into your life. It waits for you to pursue it. And that pursuit requires faith. Why? Because purpose is rarely obvious in the beginning. It's usually hidden in the ordinary. It shows up as a dream that feels too big, as a passion that feels impractical, as a burden that feels inconvenient. Faith is what allows you to trust that what's stirring in your spirit is not random but intentional. Too many people miss their purpose because they expect it to come wrapped in certainty. They want a clear map before they move, a guaranteed outcome before they try. But purpose doesn't work like that. Purpose reveals itself step by step, not all at once. And faith is what gives you the courage to take the next step, even when you can't see the whole path. Without faith, you'll stay stuck in analysis, waiting for perfect clarity that never comes. With faith, you'll walk into the unknown, and as you move, the path will unfold beneath your feet. Purpose also demands risk. It will often call you out of comfort and into challenge. It will ask you to leave behind what is safe, what is familiar, and what is easy. If you only move when it's convenient, you'll never discover destiny. Faith is what empowers you to take that risk. It's what allows you to say yes to the opportunity that scares you, yes to the responsibility that stretches you, yes to the vision that feels bigger than your resources. Faith says, I may not have it all figured out, but I trust that I'm equipped for what I'm called to do. Without that conviction, you'll shrink back and miss the very assignment designed to elevate you. Purpose is also deeply tied to service. Your destiny is not just about you, it's about the lives you're meant to impact. And this is where faith becomes essential. Because when you serve others, when you give, when you pour yourself out, it doesn't always look like success in the beginning. Sometimes it looks like sacrifice. Sometimes it looks like being overlooked. Sometimes it looks like sowing seeds with no harvest in sight. Faith is what keeps you serving when the reward isn't visible yet. Faith is what keeps you giving when it feels like no one notices. Faith is what reminds you that everything you're pouring out is an investment into eternity, and the return is guaranteed if you don't quit. Unlocking purpose through faith also means refusing to compare yourself to others. Comparison is the enemy of destiny. When you look at someone else's path and feel inferior, you rob yourself of the joy of walking your own. Purpose is not a competition. Your assignment is unique to you. What someone else is called to doesn't diminish what you're called to. But it takes faith to believe that. Faith to trust that even if your journey looks slower, it's still significant. Faith to believe that even if your progress is hidden, it's still meaningful. Faith to know that what's for you will not pass you by, and what isn't for you can't be forced. Faith also protects you from the fear of failure. So many people never unlock their purpose because they're paralyzed by the possibility of failing. But here's the truth. Failure is part of the process. Every mistake, every misstep, every setback is a stepping stone that refines your vision and strengthens your character. Faith allows you to see failure not as an end, but as feedback. It transforms failure from a dead end into a detour. With faith, you realize that failing while pursuing purpose is better than succeeding at something you were never called to do. Because even in failure, you are aligned with destiny, and alignment always leads to growth. Unlocking purpose also requires resilience. The journey will not be easy. There will be days when you question yourself, when you feel unqualified, when you wonder if you misheard your calling. There will be opposition, resistance, and seasons of silence where it feels like nothing is working. This is where faith becomes your lifeline. Faith whispers, keep going. Faith reminds you, you're closer than you think. Faith declares, what you're carrying matters. Without faith, those seasons crush you. With faith, those seasons mature you. They refine your vision, deepen your character, and prepare you for the weight of the destiny you're about to walk into. Another aspect of unlocking purpose through faith is obedience. Sometimes faith is not about understanding everything, but about doing the next right thing. Too often, people wait until they have the full picture before they act. But destiny is not revealed in the waiting, it's revealed in the walking. Faith is what pushes you to start the business when you're not sure who will buy. Faith is what moves you to write the book when you don't know who will read. Faith is what empowers you to mentor, to teach, to create, to serve, even when the platform feels small. And as you act in obedience, doors begin to open, connections begin to form, opportunities begin to multiply. Purpose meets you in motion, not in hesitation. Purpose also requires vision, and vision is faith in action. To unlock your destiny, you must see beyond your current reality. You must see not only who you are, but who you are becoming. You must see not only where you are, but where you're going. Faith enlarges your vision. It teaches you to look beyond the paycheck to the impact, beyond the struggle to the breakthrough, beyond the season you're in to the legacy you're building. Vision guided by faith gives you the courage to keep moving forward, even when your present doesn't look like your promise. Ultimately, unlocking purpose through faith is about alignment. It's about aligning your belief with your calling, your actions with your values, your effort with your vision. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. Without faith, you'll live beneath your assignment, chasing comfort, approval, or distractions. With faith, you'll rise into destiny, fully alive, fully engaged, fully committed to the reason you were created. And when you live in that alignment, life takes on a richness that nothing else can provide. Success feels empty without purpose. But when success and purpose align, that's when fulfillment is born. So understand this. Your purpose is not waiting for perfect timing, it's waiting for your faith. Every day you delay is another day you drift. Every step you take in faith, no matter how small, brings you closer to unlocking the destiny you were designed for. Don't wait for certainty. Don't wait for applause. Don't wait for conditions to be perfect. Step out in faith, because faith is the key and purpose is the door. When you turn that key, you won't just live life, you'll live destiny. Living transformed, walking daily in faith and confidence. Faith is not a one-time decision, it is a daily discipline. Transformation doesn't happen in a single moment of inspiration. It happens in the grind of everyday choices, in the repetition of consistent actions, in the renewal of your mind day after day. The difference between people who live average lives and those who live transformed lives is simple. One group treats faith like an event, the other treats faith like a lifestyle. If you want to live in the fullness of your destiny, you must learn to walk daily in faith and confidence. Let's start with this. Faith is not just believing in God, it's believing God. There's a difference. Believing in God means you acknowledge His existence. Believing God means you trust His word, you act on His promises, you align your decisions with His truth, even when circumstances look the opposite. That's where transformation begins. Because life will always present you with evidence that tries to contradict what you believe. The economy will look unstable, people will disappoint you, opportunities will seem scarce, but walking in daily faith means you don't build your identity or your decisions on what you see, you build them on what you believe. Confidence, then, is not arrogance. It's not walking around with inflated pride or pretending to be invincible. Confidence is quiet assurance. It's knowing who you are, whose you are, and what you're called to do. When you walk in faith, confidence becomes a natural byproduct. You stop needing validation from others because you know your worth is not up for debate. You stop fearing rejection because you know rejection can't cancel your assignment. You stop hesitating in your decisions because you know hesitation wastes time and purpose requires movement. Faith fuels confidence, and confidence makes faith visible. Now, How do you practice this daily? Let's break it down. First, renew your mind every single day. Your thoughts are the battlefield. Transformation starts with what you think, because what you think shapes what you believe, and what you believe directs what you do. If you allow negativity, doubt, and fear to dominate your thoughts, your faith will weaken. But if you feed your mind with truth, with vision, with affirmations grounded in faith, you'll strengthen your spirit. This is why daily disciplines like reading, journaling, meditating, and prayer matter. They are not religious rituals. They are weapons of transformation. They align your inner world so you can stand strong in the outer world. Second, take consistent action. Faith without works is dead. Too many people pray for transformation but refuse to participate in the process. They want breakthrough without discipline, growth without discomfort, elevation without sacrifice. But faith is not passive, it's active. Walking in faith daily means you back your belief with behavior. You work on your craft, you show up with excellence, you take the opportunities in front of you, you do what you can with what you have while trusting that more will come. Small, consistent actions, compounded over time, create massive transformation. Third, protect your environment. Faith is fragile in the wrong atmosphere. If you surround yourself with people who only speak fear, doubt, and negativity, you'll start to absorb that energy. Walking in confidence requires you to curate your circle. You need voices that push you higher, not pull you lower. You need relationships that stretch your vision, not shrink it. You need conversations that feed your faith, not starve it. This doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It means you're intentional about who has influence over your mindset. Protecting your environment is protecting your destiny. Fourth, embrace discipline. Confidence is not built on hype, it's built on habits. You can't always control your feelings, but you can control your routines. Daily discipline builds consistency, and consistency builds confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, whether it's waking up early, finishing a project, or saying no to distractions, you strengthen your inner belief that you are reliable. And when you believe you are reliable, your confidence skyrockets. Faith without discipline leads to dreams without results. But faith with discipline turns dreams into reality. Fifth, learn to persevere through storms. Daily faith doesn't mean life will be smooth. It means you're anchored even when storms hit. Transformation requires resilience. There will be days you feel like quitting. There will be setbacks that test your resolve. There will be seasons where it looks like nothing is working. But faith teaches you that storms don't last forever, and confidence reminds you that you are stronger than you think. You may bend, but you won't break. You may stumble, but you won't stay down. Every storm is not proof of failure, it's training for greater strength. Sixth, measure your life by progress, not perfection. Confidence doesn't come from being flawless, it comes from being faithful. Too often people disqualify themselves because they make mistakes. But mistakes are not the end, they're evidence that you're moving. Perfection is an illusion, but progress is available to everyone. Walking daily in faith means celebrating small wins, acknowledging growth, and refusing to despise humble beginnings. Transformation is not instant, it's incremental. But if you stay consistent, the person you're becoming will be unrecognizable compared to the person you used to be. Seventh, speak life. Your words carry power. What you say consistently will shape what you believe, and what you believe will shape how you act. If you constantly speak doubt, you reinforce fear. If you constantly speak faith, you reinforce confidence. This is why affirmations, declarations, and positive speech matter. They are not just motivational tricks, they are tools of transformation. When you say, I am capable, I am chosen, I am equipped, you rewire your brain and strengthen your faith. Speak life over your dreams, over your family, over your future. Because words create worlds. Eighth, trust timing. Daily faith requires patience. We live in a culture obsessed with speed, but destiny is not rushed, it's developed. When you rush the process, you end up unprepared for the promise. Confidence means trusting that delays are not denials, and detours are not dead ends. It means understanding that your journey is unfolding exactly as it should. When you walk daily in faith, you stop panicking about when things will happen and start focusing on who you are becoming while you wait. Transformation is not just about outcomes, it's about preparation. Finally, remember this. Transformation is not about impressing others, it's about fulfilling your calling. Daily faith keeps you grounded in what matters. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to chase validation. You don't need to compete for worth. You simply need to walk in alignment with the purpose God gave you. That's real confidence. That's real transformation. So if you want to live transformed, here's the blueprint. Renew your mind, take consistent action, protect your environment, embrace discipline, persevere through storms, measure by progress, speak life, trust timing, and stay aligned with your purpose. This isn't a one-time formula, it's a daily rhythm. Every day you choose faith, you build transformation. Every day you walk in confidence, you step deeper into destiny. And when you live like this, when faith is not just what you believe, but how you move, when confidence is not just a feeling, but a practice, you will not only change your life, you will inspire others to believe they can change theirs. Transformation will ripple out from you, impacting everyone you touch. That's the power of walking daily in faith and confidence.